What should the OKC Thunder do this offseason? And I think they're a team that's really on the up. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I had a bit of a friendly bet with a friend and he said that he was betting me that the OKC Thunder will win a ring within 10 years. And this was about 2 years ago or so, roughly now. And I sort of laughed about 2 years ago. And then SGA turned into a superstar. Giddy suddenly was drafted at that point and has really sort of taken a positive step, I think, in his second year. And I think the first step here is that they are going to need to get Chet Holmgren on the court and healthy. Seen a few sort of videos of him sort of working out and stuff like that. So, hey, look, getting the number two pick onto the floor and added to this team that just missed out on the play-in, sort of a playoff spot sort of thing is really, going to be a huge bonus, I think, for them. And I think that's the first step there. I guess the second step here is obviously Giddy. Continues to need to show year three improvement. I think he's the biggest variable here. I think you should probably say SGA has turned out to the player that you hoped he would become. Yeah, you're not going to say SGA is now suddenly going to become a 30 to 40 point scorer or something crazy like that. He's now averaging 30. He's definitely averaging 30 as well as impacting winning. That's important too. All right. And his sort of other aspects of his game are starting to really round out. So it's like Giddy. What can Giddy add to his game? I think that's more threes. Okay, and he's sort of shown the growth from year one to year two. It's like, can we see some more growth from Giddy into year three? If we can see Giddy now maybe take and he's currently shooting about, I think about three threes a game at about 32%. All right, so it's not terrible, but can he lift that to say above 35%, 38%? Now you're starting to go, this guy is a threat from downtown consistently. All right, and if he can now start to obviously shoot more from downtown, increase that to 4 or 5 attempts a game, he'll ultimately probably bump his scoring average to about 20 points a game. And I think that continued growth from Giddy will continue to really push OKC in the right direction. So you put in the work to continue to help him get his game to that point. Um, I guess the next part here is to modify the roster a little bit. I guess looking at them, and I had a trade before about sending Pokusevski out, I think, which obviously he's a similar sort of build to like Chet Holmgren. Okay, and obviously having two of them is probably not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, but they don't really, if you look at the roster, have a talented bruiser in the paint. And you could probably envision a lineup where you've got Chet Holmgren, on a wing, being able to play, slightly out of the paint while also anchoring the paint with a sort of traditional big man. So that sort of comes in with my trade here. I've got the Jalen Williams, not the top three rookie of the year, Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams and Kenrich Williams, obviously being proposed here, sending them to the Detroit Pistons because they love, lottery picks and talent to see where they go, right? And bring back Isaiah Stewart. And Isaiah Stewart obviously is sort of caught in that log jam at center at the Pistons. And we talked about the Pistons when we covered them. They got like four centers that all could ultimately make an argument to start. Okay. And he's probably the odd man out of the age groups and the talent that they've got there at the Pistons. So, but only 2 years ago, he was, I think, averaging about 10 and 10 and about 2 blocks a game, roughly, I think. Okay. He was almost like on a trajectory like Robert Williams was having at the Celtics. And then suddenly, Pistons brought in all these other centers, and now he's like, I don't know what number on the rotation he is. So I think if consider this sort of trade, boost up your bench, obviously at OKC Thunder. They get closer and closer to that championship ring in the next 8 years or so. That I'm sort of banking that maybe they won't, but it looks like their future is bright.
Yeah, look, I really like the part about Giddy and Chet. They're two young players that we really need to see how they pan out and develop. SGA is obviously taken that leap, and if you compare those other two with him, then that's fantastic. So it is about filling out the roster, and we're actually in alignment for once because I'm interested in filling out that roster a little bit. But I'm going to caveat with this: they need to trial the big three. They need to have Giddy, SGA, and Chet play games together and substantial amount of games, not just 15 and then go off a tangent. They need to wait to the midseason to figure out where they are and where other teams are because we do know that they sit on a litany of picks and young players and all the good stuff that other teams really want to interact with. But I do have a trade, and you identified it as well. When they went up against Minnesota, there was a recognition that Rudy Gobert looking like a 20 and 20 beast is not good, but it's okay when you don't actually have a center. And clearly that's what they need. And I mentioned Vucevic before as a potential sign and trade player, but I did actually have a trade. And it's a hard one because the other team doesn't have a lot of reasons to do it, but I'll try to explain it. So Darius Saric, who was picked up, and Ogier Deng, young, forward player. They really collected a lot of wing players. Their contracts match up to successfully go out for Jonas Valanciunas from the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, he is a huge part of the success that the Pelicans have, but the Pelicans, which we'll talk about soon, are in a bit of a weird spot. And I think the one motivator for this trade is this feels the need for OKC. It also feels the need for New Orleans, not on the court, but in the luxury tax situation, because we'll talk about them a little bit more. But that Zion situation, that massive contract, Ingram being a massive contract, McCollum being a massive contract, and them really kind of just like treading water, um, they probably have to pivot in a different direction. And Valanciunas would be the first domino to fall there as well. So that was my motivation for the Thunder. But yeah,
Would you start Valanciunas alongside Chet Holmgren? Is that sort of what you're suggesting?
yeah, yeah. So very similar to what I said with Vucevic, just that bruising, slow center to be paired with, I know it sounds odd, but like Chet is potentially a wing player in a really tall frame body. And that may be the way to use him, where he can spread the floor with shooting, but also can kind of slash a little bit. And
I,
that
I'm gonna
low
say
post game is.
I'm going to say you're right. We sort of agree on the same direction here for the Thunder, which is a first, I think, in how many takes we've had so far. But look, I guess I just pulled out a few stats here. Look, I like Valanciunas. He's got a solid game. He's probably, I don't feel he fits that timeline though. He's 31 at the moment. Yeah, he's 31. The Thunder are a much younger team. Obviously, a pitcher Isaiah Stewart coming across, and he's only 22 at the moment. And look, last season he put up 11 and 8. He's only in his third year, sort of thing. Keep that in mind as well. And he sort of averages about a bit of a block a game. Whereas Valanciunas obviously is not much of a shot blocker, 14 and 10. The numbers are quite similar. All right, but there's like a 9 years difference in between there. So I think could he help them? Maybe. I don't know. I think but it feels like that salary that you sort of would send to him at this point and the timeline of the Thunder doesn't necessarily match up. So, all right, that's my only thoughts there with your sort of trade.
I mean, it also falls back to that philosophy of if they try it and they know that this archetype of player works, then they can leave it there. And Valanciunas has also proven to have a bit of a playoff record now on a couple of teams. I think sometimes it's not about winning right now; it's just about setting up a piece to know, like, can we replicate this in the future, or is he going to help us now? But it feels like the most amicable we've been on one of these takes. So I'll stop talking.
This is Two Guys with Spare Time. I'm Faz, this is Nick. You're probably a basketball fan like us, so hopefully you can throw us an assist and giving our video a like and subscribing to our channel.
And if you got thoughts, feelings, or even some suggestions, please put them down in the comment section below. And thank you for using your spare time to watch us in our spare time.